Welcome to Founderology Built to Break Through, where we talk with bold founders and growth leaders who have built it, scaled it, and sold it, and who are here to share exactly what it takes to do the same. My name is Kathleen Wood, and I'm the founder of Kathleen Wood Partners, a growth strategy firm that is focused on leading founder-led businesses to new levels of success and scalability. I'm also the co-host of the Founderology Growth Summit, the only industry event where we bring together multi-unit visionary restaurant founders for 3 days of tips, techniques, and getting the inside track for how to accelerate their business. And we're excited that that conference is coming up February 2nd through the 4th, 2026 in Austin, Texas. But today I am excited about our guest who is a powerhouse in the world of technology, deals, and founder growth. Zane Tarence, partner and head of business development and strategic partnerships at Founders Advisors. Zane is an investment banker, founder, and recognized expert in growing and monetizing digital media, tech, and software companies. Also, how it all comes together to support hospitality and a variety of industries. He is also the author of what I believe is the essential book for everyone that is looking to figure out where they fit on the investment curve with his book, 17 Reasons Your Company is Not Investment Grade and What to Do About It. Zane has led and completed more than 87 technology deals, built and sold 2 companies to publicly traded firms, and continues to guide founders in building companies of real value. He is also the proud sponsor and supporter of the Founderology Growth Summit, where he and his team will be continuing to accelerate founders' growth with smart strategies, how to scale faster, and how to position their companies for investor-grade success. So Zane, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Founderology Podcast today.
Kathleen, you've got me excited. My mom must have sent you that introduction. I don't know. She's the only one that could have written that introduction. So thank you very much for that.
Well, she did a heck of a job capturing all your success, and tell her I appreciate the check too. That was very kind of her. I'll use it for the holidays. But Zane, it is so great to have you here today. Is there anything else you want to share about your journey that maybe I missed in that intro?
No, that was beautiful, Kathleen. I've had my share of misses, and I've had a few successes. And I'll just say, I have learned more in my failures than I've actually learned in the things that went well. So very excited to be here, and I just hope we can add value to the listeners, Kathleen.
Absolutely. So Zane, one thing that I think we should start with is just if you could give everyone like a brief overview of Founders Advisors, because you know it's an amazing organization, truly benefiting founders, which I think makes it so unique and special, but also a very powerful force in the investment banking industry.
Wow, thank you. Well, first of all, I have to give credit to my partner, Dwayne Donner, that named us Founders Advisors. I was on the board when we started the business 23 years ago, Kathleen, and then I joined full time after I sold my companies 3 years after that. So I've been here about 20 years. And you nailed it, but Founders is a lower middle market investment bank. We are just focused on founders. We don't work for private equity. We don't work for the strategics. We work with founders because my partner and I, we're both founders. That's where we grew up, and we saw that most founders are at this information disadvantage. And so our hearts are to serve founders, to create value, and then at the right time, help them traverse the growth capital that's in the market. Most owners have been so focused in the lower middle market and building their companies, they truly don't understand how to use debt, equity, where it is. So that's our goal, to help these owners create value. We now have 51 bankers and about 12 other professionals in our firm. We're in Dallas, Nashville, and Birmingham, Alabama, but we serve clients all over the world.
Wow, that is fantastic. And Zane, really, you truly do. You know, that's one of the reasons why I've always appreciated and been very grateful for our partnership, because we have a shared vision and shared values for really helping founders who, like you, believe that they are at a disadvantage sometimes. And you bring big business, experience, knowledge, and insights to these small businesses and help them become businesses with great value. So thank you to you and the team for all that you do.
Thank you, Kathleen. We love working with you, because when you get the right people, the right advisors around a founder, you can just make incredible difference. And I've seen that over my career. The right team of folks you can collaborate with and understand the market well can just make a huge difference in the
Yeah.
results that you produce.
Absolutely. So, Zane, I want to kind of pull a little thread on that because, look, to do 87 deals, and I don't think people like it's not like it's 87 deal meaning like every 3 weeks you're doing a deal. Deals have a lot, they have a little time built in there. But then also, you founded two companies and sold two companies. So, when you think about a founder's mindset when it comes to really building a business of value, what do you think is at the core, or what was at your core as a founder of your mindset of what it takes to not just build a business, but build a business that actually has value as it grows?
That is a great question, and I'm going to speak, from my perspective. I was 12 years with IBM, Kathleen. So out of college, I worked for IBM. I ran a practice for IBM Global Services my last 4 years, and so I got to work with big companies. But then IBM funded my business. We invented a product there. They gave me the product and really supported me. So first of all, I am very, very biased toward the right partnerships. I have had really good partnerships in both the companies that we sold to publicly traded companies that I was the CEO of. I had amazing partners. My first partner was IBM. When I went to market, a little guy in Alabama, I got to propose on IBM paper. What did that mean to my prospects? They said, wow, he must be legit because he's got IBM. So I'm going to say one thing. I am biased toward partnerships. I'm for them. A lot of people I talk to, like, oh, I've never had a good relationship with partners. It's never worked. I'm just going to tell you, two are better than one. And in a startup, you need some big brothers and sisters that can support you. So that's number one. Number two, as I'm thinking about this, I think self-awareness. I wasn't very talented, but I do think my parents helped me understand that I didn't know everything. And one of the things that blessed me is I was able to take some feedback. And one of the feedback I got in my first company, then I used it in my second one, is Zane, you're not the best operator around. You're a good product manager. You're a good go-to-market guy. You understand market motion. You're a good software engineer. But you really don't have the experience to be the CEO of a company like you're trying to build, my first one, Virtual Learning Technologies. And they gave me some hard advice to bring in a CEO. I owned the company. I started it. But because I somehow, by God's grace, was able to listen, it did hurt my feelings, I'll be honest. I didn't tell them. But I was able to bring on a real CEO, Kathleen, that blessed me. So I was the founder and president, but Alan Ritchie was the CEO. Kathleen, we would have lost a fortune of investors' money if it hadn't been for a real CEO partnering with me. So I'm grateful that I believed in big partners and also that I was able to allow somebody to come in and be the CEO of the company I started because they were better than I was and I could ever be.
Oh my God. Zane, right now, I just want to say to everyone listening that they have to get it out. Whatever your device you're using to take notes, put down notes, whatever it is, because I think you just already hit on something that's just so vital. Because that's the same thing that, and I'm going to ask you an add-on question to this. A lot of times when I talk with founders, they'll say, hey, the difference maker for me was when I brought in an experienced team and they started to help me grow. But I also think one of the biggest barriers for founders is understanding why making that investment makes sense, because they're so used to doing it all by themselves and I can do it all and we've done fine with this point and I'm great. I don't need to bring anybody in. And I think sometimes that seems to be the biggest barriers that separates those who scale and those who don't. So how do you advise founders to take the lessons you've learned? You listened, you had self-awareness, you had great partners. How do you advise founders today to kind of lean into what you're saying so that they can see that that is one of the greatest strategic moves for scaling a business?
It is, Kathleen. And again, it's counterintuitive because you think I've got to maintain control. And I have an issue with control. And most type A people like us and like your listeners that are entrepreneurs, we want to control. But the brutal facts are And I've been able to watch this now for 30 years as an owner, operator, investor, and leading thousands of companies through valuations and understanding what can create value and watching some of the best private equity groups and strategic buyers in the world buy companies and do due diligence. It is the team, Kathleen. It is the team. And so I bring the data to these owners saying, let me show you something. You get the right team. I don't care if it costs you 20% equity. If you bring the right team, they will produce so much economic value for you, it's not even funny. And so I bring the data. And Kathleen, you know, I say, in God we trust, all others bring data. It is a fact that investors bet on the jockey more than they do the horse. Investors invest on the team. And as an entrepreneur, it would have been very narcissistic for me to think that I knew how to build a software company. I didn't know how. I knew how to build a product. I knew how to sell things, but I did not. So it is common sense. Once you look at the data, do whatever it takes to surround yourself with great people. Now, Kathleen, one other thing here that I advise people. It is very, very hard to get smart people to hire smarter people than they are. You know why? I don't want to be showing up. I got to be in control here. When I started seeing the level of smart people and advisors, it intimidated me. And to be able to keep focusing on, wait a second, what am I about? I'm about creating value for my employees, for our people. Then we could start creating a culture to hire smarter people than you are. So that's the number one thing I advise people. The second you can qualify for a higher grade employee or leader or advisor, you do it. You do it. And so anyway, that's the first thing. To get a team, whatever it takes. It is the most important thing to value creation you can do.
Oh my gosh, this is music to my ears. It's just music to my ears because, you know, like you have to go get people who have been there and done that, because as much as you think you have your vision and you love your team, no one on your team has been there, done that before. So everything, just to your point, Zane, everything takes longer. Everything has to be more of a
Yes.
discussion. Everything has to be built. We have to absorb a learning curve. And if you just went out and made the investment, your team would rise because you're bringing somebody in to lift them up.
100%.
Oh my God, I just
100%. And Kathleen, again, I have seen this over and over again, and I have the privilege in this book I wrote, which is pattern recognition. You could read it and say, well, thank you, Captain Obvious. I knew I needed to have good financials. I knew there's different kinds of revenue, recurring versus reoccurring versus one time. I know all that. Well, here's the deal. I got to see thousands of due diligence exercises from the best investors in lower middle market businesses, the private equity groups, the financials. They know how to make money, and the strategics. Kathleen, the first thing they do when they invest in a company or buy it, they give 15% of that business to the key employees. That's the first thing they want. They understand talent's everything. And then they put some money back to recruit wherever the key gaps are. These best investors in the world spend, and they don't haggle over salary. I heard a major private equity group say about 6 months ago, you will find it, they told my owner this, very, very difficult to overpay an A player. They will make you so much money, you're going to find it very difficult to overpay them.
Wow. So Zane, let's talk about your book though, because I believe it is the quintessential book that everybody that has a business that wants to create value in their business needs to have your book. And what was the impetus for you writing your book? And if you have a
Thank
copy
you.
of the show so everyone can visually see,
Well, thank you for saying
17
that. I've got it back there.
reasons why your company is not investment grade
Great.
ready.
What to do about it? And Kathleen, you know, I'm a country boy, but what happened? It frustrated me. We said it earlier that people like me, when I started my company, I was at an information disadvantage. I didn't know what I didn't know, and if I'd just known what investors were underwriting for, if I knew, if I could keep the end in mind, I could reverse engineer that. So what I did, there was a comedian in Atlanta. Some people my age might know this. Kathleen, you're so young, you probably don't know this guy. There was a guy named Jeff Foxworthy, and he was a comedian and said, you might be a redneck if. And so one time I was giving a speech, and I was in my truck before I went in there, and I retitled it, Your Company Might Not Be Investment Grade If, and after you might be a redneck if. And it turned out to be this book, and I just basically pattern recognition through seeing all this due diligence said, listen, y'all, this is what creates enterprise value. This is what takes away from it. And I took the top elements in their relationship and said, I'm going to write these down and give practical ways to measure. That's where our assessment came from. What can I do about it? So I know as an owner, because sometimes as an owner, we don't really know if we accomplished anything today or last week. But these 17 reasons will say, if you are working on these intentionally and you made progress this week on one of these, you increased your EV, your enterprise value. So I wrote it as a simple guide to say, hey, this is what institutional investors want. So focus on these things so you're not investment grade, you're not a redneck.
Right. You know, it's so great. I love that because we have your colleague Wayne Vasick on one of our podcasts as well. And Wayne and I talk specifically about the power of your book and then how you all took the book, created the investor grade assessment. And one of the things is everyone that's going to attend the Founderology Growth Summit, thanks to your generous support and sponsorship, they are all getting a complimentary opportunity to use the investor grade assessment, get their score on that assessment. And then we're doing a bonus session where the Founders Advisors team is going to sit and talk to each person about how to improve their score on that. So I just want to say on behalf of everyone that thank you for writing that book. Thanks for the assessment and thanks for the sponsorship of it. Because I think, again, you know, more people will, the more you know, the more you can grow and more people will learn from this. So
I love it. And Kathleen, I got to say one more thing because you got me excited when you were talking about what you're doing at the summit. I want owners to have optionality. You do not have optionality if you're not investment grade. The first option is to keep a wonderful business that gives great dividends, that has amazing opportunities for your team members, your partners. Keep it, or give it, transition it to your best employees or your family members. But if you don't have an investment grade business, all you've got is a disastrous job. So whether you're ever going to transition, whether you have a number that you want, if I get 50 million, I'll exit. Please have an investment grade business. And that was my passion, so that you'll have more freedom, peace of mind, cash flow.
Right.
That's the reason I wrote the book. I want you to have options.
I love that. And Zane, I want to ask you a question about these options. Why do you think that in your experiences, founders are hesitant to want to know what I hear a lot of times from founders, look, I don't want to talk to an investment banker. I don't want to do this because I don't think I'm ready. I don't think that I have all my financial house in order. I don't really understand what they're talking about. One of the things I thought about your book is that it just helped people learn the language, gave the definitions, helped them get over the hump. But from your experience working with founders, what do you think has been both their barrier to understanding how to get their business, investment grade ready? And what do you think has been the thing that has unlocked their ability to see the potential of their business? So the barrier and the unlock.
Great question. And I can speak from experience. When I used to get these emails with my companies, and I did another company, my second company, I was more sophisticated, but I got embarrassed a few times, Kathleen. I'll talk to private equity groups and investment bankers, and they made me feel a little shameful because I didn't know what I was talking about. They asked me what my gross margin was, and I didn't have the right numbers in my cost of goods sold. I felt shamed. And just like from a kid, I don't want to be embarrassed. So, I'm going to feel bad. I'm not going to do this thing. So I think a bit of it is being embarrassed and a little shameful and not willing to get out there and be challenged. Okay. So that's one thing I see. They just don't want to be told their baby's got problems. Their baby's ugly. Okay. One of the things, the thing that's unlocked it for me is to talk about the personal goals of these founders. Why did you start your business? Who is affected if this business fails? Who is affected if it wins? All your employees, your kids, your future grandkids, your family, generational wealth. let's put our personal stuff aside. You have this asset, and Kathleen, for most of our companies, I know our companies, we cross pollinate with the same size companies. Over 88% of that founder's wealth is in their illiquid company. And I've got them looking at their stocks and bonds portfolio that's a couple of $1,000,000. And then they've got a $50 million business that they don't want to know what would make it more valuable. And I'm like, what? So I think what's unlocked it for me, some of them are ashamed or embarrassed, just don't feel like they're ready, is education. To say, listen, you built this hospitality concept. You built this restaurant. You got 9 locations there. You literally have the opportunity to build a $100 million enterprise value over the next 18 months. And once they start saying, oh my goodness, I would not be a responsible steward of this opportunity if I didn't get help, then they can start believing and seeing, and they're willing to roll up their sleeves and talk about it. But I'll tell you, most people say, oh, don't most owners think they're worth more money than they are? Can I tell you something, Kathleen, from my experience and myself? Most owners that have real companies are worth a lot more than they think they are. So that's what I try to give them vision to say, don't you want to find out? That's like saying, I don't want to go to the doctor and get my blood taken and see what my cholesterol and lipids and A1C is. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Why? So anyway, that's my thinking.
No, I agree with your thinking. I totally agree with your thinking. I think it's because, look, when you're running, let's say, go back to the 9-unit restaurant. You're running a 9-unit restaurant. You're doing 50 million. You're in articles. You're on. You're getting your picture taken everywhere. You're the town hero. Nobody wants to know that underneath the hood, we don't know what's going on with the engine.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's such a harsh friction between the persona and the P&L.
Hey, Kathleen, you said it better than I said it. That's the deal. It's the persona. And a lot of us, even our company started growing, we looked like we were doing well. Our employees were doing well. They were hitting their bonuses, but I'd never dividended myself a dime. And it was kind of like I had this persona of people thinking I was better than I was. And therefore, probably my insecurity didn't want to be with the real players because I was trying, I didn't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, no, I get it. Zane, Zane, and I really appreciate you sharing that, especially from your own personal perspective and also from the founder's perspective, because that if we could just, I have this theory that if you can name it, I learned this from a book called The Power of 10. If you can name it, you can tame it. So if you could just name, hey, I don't know what the heck you people are talking about in finance, then okay, now we can start from someplace.
That's exactly right.
Now we can start and let's fix it together. And that's what I love about what you all do at Founders Advisors. You just meet people where they are and try to get them to where they want to be. And I think it makes it less intimidating, less about, oh my gosh, I don't even know what's happening here. Because I've sat in some meetings with other places and people are talking and the founder is just shaking their head. And I know for a fact that most of what is like, woo,
they don't know.
Right.
Hey,
and they can't
Kathleen,
raise their hand.
You're going to have to tell me to shut up because I get so excited about this. I did an event, I think Silicon Y'all last week, brought all these people in. One of the people I got on the stage was a gentleman we did a deal in 2015 with. Sold him for $50 million. 2 years later, he sold for $1.4 billion. This gentleman got on the stage, Kathleen, to your point, and said, when I first came here and Zane and his team introduced us to some of these private equity groups, I was at a 2-day conference. He had got up on the stage, told about his business. He was growing like a weed, but did about 11 million revenue, but didn't know much. A couple of people asked him what his EBITDA was. And now this guy has done many companies now. He has his own fund. 10 years later, he said, when they came up to me 10 years ago, and now he's a multi-billionaire, okay, because he's done several billion-dollar companies, he had to Google what EBITDA was. And he stood on the stage and said that. And I looked out at 105 entrepreneurs that were in that audience. And you know what they did? They had a sigh of relief. You mean Ross didn't know what EBITDA was? And now he's investing? That's okay, right? It's okay. What's not okay is not to be intellectually curious, to be sitting on something that could be worth a lot of money and you're not being responsible. Here's the other thing, Kathleen, some entrepreneurs, I've been there, are in a cul-de-sac. They're working harder and harder and harder, but they're not creating value. So you need to know if you're wasting your time. And what the loving thing to do for an advisor is to be able to help you say, I think you need to pivot. That market you're in is no good. You can work harder and harder and harder to surf on my pond that has no waves. You're never going to make it. So sometimes you need the brutal truth and permission from an expert, listen to this, to quit. Go do something else. People say, persevere, persevere, persevere. Not if you're doing something that's impossible or is never going to create value. So that's the other reason. Sometimes you need to stop it and don't go get any more debt.
Oh, that's so good. So, Zane, I'm going to pull another thread on that. With all the deals that you've done and all of the thousands of deals you've looked at, what do you think differentiates the founder that gets the premium value versus the founder that still gets something nice, but they're not, like you hear about some of these premium values? What do you think is the differentiating factor between here and here in those scenarios?
Love that question. Oh, I love that question because there is a difference. It looks like to the outsider the very same company, and one of them trades for double what the other one trades for.
Right.
Okay. Here are two things. I would say number one is your gross margin profile against your cohort. The definition of a competitive advantage is an outsized gross margin. If you're running a concept, a hospitality practice, a MSP, any of these companies, you can look at what the average gross margin is for your size cohort. If you have an outsized gross margin, you are gonna get a premium because it tells me, I don't know what your competitive advantage is, but you either have better people, better processes, better systems, better something, hiring, better comp plans, because you're producing an outsized result. So gross margin, number one. Number two, I hate to be a broken record, but a team that can actually scale, that has done it before or understands, because Kathleen, you can build, we've all built stuff on our own merits to a certain size, but that scaling part is brutal and it takes a special skill set. Usually somebody that's done it before. I'm not going to give you an outsized valuation because I bet on the management team if I don't believe that's the team that can scale. Now, Aki, you say, wait a second, you're a private equity group. You could go put the right people in there. Yeah, but that messes up the culture. I'm buying a culture. I want you to grow. If you have the right team, they will pay up because they're investing in risk-adjusted future cash flows. So if you've got the right team that can scale, go gross margin scale. Let me give you a little professional hack here. Timing. People say, oh, don't worry about the timing. I'm sorry. The things I've seen that have traded for ridiculous multiples, let me tell you when it typically is. A hot sector where a buyer was second in a previous process with somebody in that space, okay? Somebody had a product or service, a restaurant concept in the Mexican casual space, right, and they missed it. Somebody outbid them. And now another one comes along and they are so scared they're going to miss this one that they overpay. That's the third reason.
Genius. So, for instance, if I missed Chipotle the first 2-3 times that it came around, I've got to jump on to the next one because
the Velvet Taco or something.
Yes.
Got to jump on it. And even institutional investors, that is not being irresponsible. It is such a good thesis, such a good market. And this is the reason, Kathleen, people, you're focused on your business, but you need somebody like you, somebody that understands the sector and knows what's going on. Because if there's been somebody missed and you look like them, you're going to have people so lathered up to come after you that they're going to pay up.
Yeah. I think saying that's where it's a great place where we both work because we get to see, like, we know where these people are. And one of the things I always say is you're going to be the next great brand in this segment. So the playbook has been written. We know where they've won. We know where they lost. We know where we missed. Now we're going to come, as that one kind of starts on its maturation and potentially it's going to come through a few things, we're coming in as the next opportunity for the people that missed on I love that because that's
Hey,
the
and if you
strategy.
want to engineer crazy valuation, you follow that path that you
Yes.
just said, Kathleen. I would come to you and say, tell me where we are in the life cycle of certain concepts that I
Right.
match. And typically the second and third that are in the market that are investment grade, okay, you got 6 or 7 or 8 locations that are working
Yeah.
equally. You don't want a location. Some people have great locations and very poor locations. That's not good. You've got to have a certain benchmark. If you've got that, it is time to go to market because you will create so much outsized value. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Hey Zane, a couple of times you've mentioned culture, and how does culture? Because when you're talking to investment bankers and you're talking to and everyone's like, "Those are such soft, they don't matter," and I'm always like, "Oh my God, I think it's one of the greatest competitive differentials out there." But how do you see? You've said culture several times now. How does culture factor into it when you're looking at a business?
Okay, Kathleen, I've got to repent. 15 years ago, I said I would hear culture and I'd go, would somebody quit that? Show me results in other ways. Show me. I was a little negative on how to actually show that created value. Kathleen, I'm crystal clear. Culture is the ability to retain A players and attract A players to your platform. And they stay with you, that retention. A culture, I might not know what you're doing, but if you have outsized retention of your store managers, you have got a culture. And I don't know exactly what you're doing, but let me tell you something. Retention translates into much higher enterprise value. So I'm going to tell you, culture matters. I can tell if you have one by retention of A players and the ability to recruit A players. And let me tell you the other thing great investors do due diligence on. They ask you over a glass of wine. They ask your key players separately. When's the last time you had a C player in a key position? Oh, yeah, we had this. How did you get them off the bus? That's culture too, because the most unloving thing you'll ever do in a culture is keep a C player on the team. It's abuse to the C player. I was a C player in college basketball. I tried to play college basketball. I was an A player in high school. I couldn't make the next step. It's miserable. To my coach that was recruiting me, said, you probably don't want to do this. And I was so grateful. I've been a C player. Get me off the bus. So culture is hiring, retaining A players, and getting C players off the bus in the right way. It creates a fortune in enterprise value.
Okay, well, look, mic drop, mic drop, mic drop, Zane. I mean, I just can't say enough about this because I also have that theory that if you have a person who is a 10, a person who's a 10 doesn't want to report to a person who's a 5. It's just like, it's insanity, right? So you've got to have 10.
Got
Let the
it.
10s build the 5s and the 7s up, but don't have 10s reporting to 5s. But sometimes we hang on to those 5s because they've been with us a long time. They were through this with us. They went through COVID with us. I'm like, I get that, but they cannot be the.
And
So I
Kathleen,
might drop.
you said something so vulnerability, Tom. I
Yeah.
love people. One of the reasons I wasn't a great CEO, and I loved getting a great CEO, I had a hard time with people that had helped me build a company to a certain stage, and they were very good. But they gotten to the point, the Peter principle, they weren't the next level. But I felt so responsible. It's like they've been so good. Can't we keep them on? You've got to have the discipline and the love and the candor to say this is not the right place for you. I'm going to help you outside the company, but this is not the right place. Because if you start building a culture of promoting those people, you will never scale. And investors know that. They've seen it. The numbers prove it. So I just can't emphasize that enough. And most people, you figure out how to hire your culture. Figure out what the best your culture is, and you got to figure out how to hire that. And you got to figure out how to get people to disqualify themselves that don't like that culture.
Yeah. We call it culture by design versus culture by default.
Oh,
But
I love it. Love
And
it.
Zane, I would say one thing that you hit on. I think in all my years of consulting with founders, I know that founder is ready to grow when they have made the hardest decision to date, which is to let that long-term, tenured, good friend, close confidant, but literally the company has moved has had that conversation of candor that just says, I don't want you to continue to feel miserable. I don't want to feel miserable. This has got to shift. And I think it's absolutely the most gut-wrenching decision that any founder has to make, but it is the one decision that I think unlocks that we are now ready for growth, because we are opening ourselves up to go get the people that can grow it.
Bingo. And I've got to use one other piece of data. If anybody read Steve Jobs' autobiography, he said, I know I'm in technology, but I have found that A players, listen to this, are 50 times more productive, better, make more enterprise value than B players, not C players. 50 times, Kathleen. I have not found one entrepreneur, when they're really honest, I ask them, have you ever seen an A plus salesperson? Have you ever been around one? Name one, and they can do it. Have you ever seen a B or C? How much better is that A plus salesperson than a B? What is their closing percentage compared to the B? Have you ever seen a developer that's a B developer? Have you ever had an A plus developer? They can write a piece of software that strings like a scalded dog. It has a beautiful user interface. They understood the business requirements so well that it integrates. It is genius. We have got to understand the order of magnitude that the A player provides. If your product is suffering, if you have a concept that's suffering a certain location, what can an A player do for that? They're going to fix it. They're going to fix it. So whatever you have to do, build a culture where A players can thrive.
That's so good, Zane. Zane, I know you and I could keep talking, man. I just, feel that like it's just going. I have like so many more questions, and I just cannot believe that we're running out of time right now. So I have.
Man, you've got my energy going, and I'm sorry I talk so much, but I'm
No,
passionate about this.
Are you kidding me? If I had a mic, I just keep dropping the mic every second here. It's been amazing. I wanted to ask you one question, and then we're going to go to our fast five. But I do think this is, well, it's kind of like two. When you think about metrics, like you said, out competing on gross margin, are there any other metrics that you really say, look, if you're a founder, you better be teeing into these metrics, these other few metrics, because, there's a million metrics, but
Sure.
outpacing contribution margin, I think, is brilliant. But are there any other metrics that you say, look, if you're a founder, you better be looking at this, because this is what's going to move the needle on your enterprise value?
Yes, and this is across industries. And again, I've got 17 of them, but let me tell you another one I see all the time. If you aren't hyper focused, now listen to me, on growth. If you're not growing, that is a real issue. Now, growing against what? Growing against your industry cohort. One of the best companies I ever saw had a 19% decrease in their CAGR, their cumulative annual growth rate. And we sold them for a fortune. You know why? Their cohort had a 48% drop the year before. So they basically had a 200-pound vest on doing pull-ups, and they only did 10. But what happens when the market gets better? They take off that vest. Relative to their competitors, they grew. So if you're not growing relative to your cohort, forget going and getting money. I'm going to give you the other one. The number one correlation in math to whether or not your business, service, restaurant, hotel, catering service is going to grow. There's a mathematical fact that private equity groups know. It is your net promoter score. How likely are your customers that came and got that taco to go and take a picture and say, this is the best taco ever on Instagram? If you have a higher net promoter score than your cohort, you're investable and you're going to win. If you don't, you better stop marketing. You better stop everything until you figure out your product delivery, service delivery. You have got to have an outsized net promoter score, because if you do, I know you're going to grow.
Okay, I've got that net promoter score, right? Outsize your growth, like and then obviously the gross margin, right? But here's the thing that I think you've said, which I think is so critical. That is, it's with your cohort. I think a lot of times people measure themselves against the industry average, and I'm like, the industry average is about mediocrity. It is not about bestsellers. It's not about leading people. So I love this idea of not measuring yourself against the industry,
That's right.
but measure yourself against your cohort, because that would give you that doesn't give you a false positive then.
That's
Right?
exactly right. And
Right?
Kathleen, we just had an issue with a acai bowl seller that
Right.
had unbelievable bowls they sold. We compared them against all the other concepts in the country and found out, oh my goodness, they're growing exponentially. And we didn't even think it was that much growth. But when we looked at that cohort and across all their locations, 16 or so locations, the investors went nuts because they knew there is something in this operator that they are doing different. So, absolutely, against your code.
All right. Zane, ready for our fast five?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Besides your book, which I do think every founder should read, get a copy of, and we'll talk about that in a minute. What other book would you tell a founder to read if they were looking to build their company for valuation and for scalability?
Wow. Okay. Let me go. Let me go. Okay. Entrepreneurial Myth, an oldie but goodie. Michael Gerber, 40 years
Yeah.
old. I love it. I got to give another one. Good to Great by
Yeah.
Mr. Jim Collins. Those are the two, but every one of my analysts has to read those two books before, their first year of working for me.
Well, and the E-Myth just came out with that new revised one, and I think it's stellar. I mean,
The E-Myth Revisited too. It's
and
so good.
revisited, two great books. I'm with you on, and of course, Good to Great. I love that book too.
Good.
All right. What do you think is one word that defines a founder who has the ability to scale their business?
Self-aware and willing to know where they need help and go and pay for it and get it at all costs. Humility. Yeah.
Ooh, that's good. All right. What is one qualitative metric you look for in a founder who's trying to scale? So one
Qualitative.
quality, like a quality.
The ability to listen and to allow people to hold them accountable.
Oh, that is good. Okay. Hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable.
Okay. All right. I like that one. What are you most excited? I mean, I want to say thank you to you and everyone at Founders Advisors for your support of the Founderology Growth Summit. And what are you
Love it.
all most excited about the Founderology Growth Summit coming up February 2nd through the 4th in Austin?
Here's what I know. It changed my life. You get in a group of people in your industry that want to learn, win, improve, teach, add value. You show me who you hang around, and I'll show you your future. So your summit, what you're doing with the Growth Summit, puts people together that want to win around industry experts. That right there, you're going to be the sum total of the 5 people you hang around. Come here because of the people you're going to get to hang around with.
That's so good. All right. And if you had to complete this sentence, a founder has a built to breakthrough concept when they
Create raving fans in their winnable, addressable market where people eat at your taco place and take a picture and say, this taco, when you create raving fans, that net promoter score around your particular value proposition, game over.
Okay. And Zane, on that note, I want to say thank you so much. This has been amazing. And I know we're going to have you back because I know that people are going to have so much, they're going to get so much from this and they're going to want a lot more. And, and I think that's why, again, I just want to say thank you to you and the team for supporting the Founderology Growth Summit. Thanks for, giving everyone who's going to attend the investor grade assessment as part of the, their package of being there. But also just thanks for writing a book that really breaks it down into an accessible way for a founder to understand that they're working hard, but their hard work is creating a value for themselves, their family, and their lives, and everyone that they come in contact. So thank you for that. And I really just want to say thank you so much for being here today because this has been a master's class in how to make your company, investor grade, but more than that, how to be the leader to get yourself in that position. So thank you very much for everything you've shared today. And Zane, if people wanted to know more about you and your book and, and of course, Founders Advisors, where do they find out more information?
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Again, you encouraged me today to give more to the entrepreneur because I love entrepreneurs. FoundersIB, investmentbank.com, foundersib.com. Everything's there. You can ultimately find it. But just thank you, Kathleen, for the value you give to entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you, Zane. We're all in it together. And I think that's the whole thing, right? You said it before, the people that you associate yourself with, that you hang around with, and that are in your top 5, that is your future. And I am very grateful that part of my top 5 is you and the Founders Advisors team. So thank you for everything you do. And thank you for your generosity today. We all appreciate it. And everyone that's listening, wow, listen to this once, twice, 3 times. Get yourself your notes, get yourself your key points, but most importantly, start developing your playbook because you can build a concept that is built to break through and have the value you're looking for. And you've learned it all here today. So thank you all for joining us. And until next time, have a great day and keep building your concept to break through.